Hey everyone, it's Caesar from Lightwerkz. For those who don't know who I am, besides the person that's speaking on this YouTube channel, I've been working in custom lighting since the introduction of this guy. Since before the introduction of this guy. This is the H1. There's been a ton of variants of it. A lot of things have changed over the last 17 years or so. And this will be a lengthy discussion on which projector to use on your projector retrofit. These days we have a lot of LED projectors that are available. I mean, tons of LED projectors available. We don't carry that many of them. We also have a lot of HID projectors. That's where this whole thing started up from. I was retrofitting projectors out of Acura TSX, Honda S2000, Infinity FX with a TSXR clear lens, which started the whole FXR thing. So I've seen everything. I've retrofitted a lot of different cars, and my team today handles a lot of different conversions for a lot of different cars as well. A lot of the same ones that I started this business on. A lot of enthusiast cars, a lot of 2000s cars. So this is going to be a very open discussion about what to use. We are not going to be comparing beam patterns today. We've actually partnered up with Automotive LED Research, ALR, and sent in some of the projectors for samples, and they are conducting really great tests. And some of the product listings have been updated on our website to show you the beam spread, the intensity zones, and Evo over there, who's doing the tests, is able to really pinpoint with precision accuracy a lot of different test points. So he can give us a great kind of overview of each projector, and it's way better than I can do over here in the shop. So this isn't about the output. However, I will go into the output and what makes one projector good, what makes one projector bad. And the million-dollar question today is, do I retrofit an HID or do I retrofit an LED? Everybody thinks LED is the answer. LED is where the market and the whole industry is headed when it comes to full assemblies. They're full LED assemblies. There are no replaceable bulbs. However, in the retrofitting world, it's kind of the same thing, except the products aren't as reliable and they're not quite as good. So in the back row, we've got a few popular LED projectors, and as you may already realize, there are no replaceable bulbs in these either, which poses a concern, which we'll get into. But the front row is all HID based, and I'll go over each projector and what its strengths and weaknesses are. But first, let's just dive into HID versus LED, okay? And there are a few key factors to consider, but from a business standpoint, and I don't care who tells you what kind of stories they make up, the truth is serviceability is our number one priority, or number one goal when it comes to recommending and performing retrofits as a business for our customers. Serviceability, so that way when our customer, Mike, has a problem in 9 years, we can easily just tell him, hey, take out the bulb out of the D2S projector, replace the bulb with a fresh set of OSRAMs. If that doesn't work, check your ballast. If you need a new ballast, we'll send you a new ballast, and he's up and running again. When it comes to LED, there are no replaceable bulbs. Once that unit fails, you will be reopening the headlight assembly, replacing the unit, or removing the lamp and sending it in to us. Hopefully we're still around. And really what it comes down to is serviceability is king from my perspective. And that's always been our philosophy, just taking care of our customers, making sure that we're here for the long run. And we've been through a lot of things, and the market shifted and things are changing, and it's really crazy time, to be honest with you. But we still are here for our customers, and we still have customers coming in today that say, hey, I've had this retrofit for 11 years. I just need to tune it up, to fix it up. I need some new bulbs. Great, let's get you on your way. So when it comes to serviceability, if that is really important to you, HID is king. You can always replace the bulb. You can always replace the ballast. If color temperature is important to you, and I know there's a few great options on the Headlight Junkies pages, there are a few people selling now or getting ready to offer some 4300 Kelvin LED projectors. You know, the vast majority, the 8% of the market is all 6,000 Kelvin essentially. Morimoto came out with the MLED, and they rated at 5,500 Kelvin, I believe. It still kind of looks a little bit cool white. It does look less cool white than, you know, some of the other projectors that we carry. However, it'll always look more cool white than, let's say, an Osram Nightbreaker laser. That's the popular bulb of today. It's a king. It's a warm white color. However, essentially, if you want that OEM look and you want to kind of fly under the radar, LED is usually not the best choice for you. So color, temperature, serviceability. Then there's the instant on, the whole instant on, you know, kind of craze. Oh, but LED just turned on right away. It sure does. It really does. However, HID, what, takes 10, 15 seconds to warm up depending on your ballast. By the time you're leaving your driveway or going down the street, your lights are fully warmed up, so you're not missing out on any safety. You know, the whole instant on thing is, it could be good maybe in like a dual filament situation where you're retrofitting an H4 and you're putting an LED projector on and you have the instant on, let's say flash to pass, or you need your high beams really quickly, great. But, you know, again, HID doesn't do great with instant on, because if you need your high beams right away and it's an HID system and you're just turning it on for the first time, it's not gonna be too bright for the first few seconds. So instant on is something that we talk about, you know, but it's not that important. It's not a crucial priority, essentially. Something that happens on HID projectors that doesn't happen on LED projectors is bulb burn. It's been a concern because in the early days of HIDs, especially the Evo XR 1.0, this is the 2.0, that bulb burned up. The bulb burned up on H1s. Any small bulb is more likely to burn up than a large bulb. So on the right-hand side, I got my full-size projectors. Left-hand side, I got the small mini. They're all mini H1 size, essentially. When you say D2S these days, it's, you know, Morimoto did a great job with their branding. D2S, essentially it's a G5 bolt pattern, okay? The Evo is the exception. It's still used and we use it, but not as often as we use some of these. And then these are the H1 sizes. The H1 bolt pattern, D2S bolt pattern, AKA the G5. It's based on a Hella design. Any of the smaller projectors had more chances of bulb burn. And in the early days, when H1s first came out, I mean, they were only lasting a few years before this whole projector sort of just, the coating just failed. However, we are in a good place now, and these HID projectors, they're lasting a long time. We take apart conversions that are 4 or 5 years old, and it's normal wear and tear. It's not bowls or, you know, the coating is just flaking off like I've seen on the FXRs back in the day. We're in a good place. So it's a safe place to be. It's safe for us to recommend HID. But if you're doing like a quad retrofit and you have a very tiny headlight and there's inadequate ventilation, you don't want to stack 2 projectors in the headlight with HIDs. It's gonna get too hot. Okay, and that can cause bowl issues just in general. So if you want to play things safe with longevity, reliability, just stick with one projector, stick with HID. That's really what it comes down to. It's very, very simple, okay? Speaking of heat, LED does terrible in the heat. All right, the lenses just don't get hot enough to melt ice and snow. And if you live in a colder climate, that could be an issue. And if, you know, a third or half of the year is very, very cold and you see snow in your climate and ice, LED is a tough sell because it does not melt, you know, snow and ice buildup like HID does. HID just runs warmer. Heat is the enemy of the LED. I mean, heat's the enemy of anything, essentially. I mean, everything wears down because of heat and UV, so I get it. You know, over time, again, bowl burn sort of was an issue. It's gotten better. What happens with LED projectors over time? Well, you know, with HID, things kind of gradually wear out. The bulbs need to be replaced, ideally, you know, every 3 to 5 years. If you want to really stay on top of it, every 2 to 3 years, really maximize your intensity. But there are no replaceable parts in an LED system, which means, you know, when you see it wearing out is essentially when it's completely failing. It's too far gone. If you have a very dim LED projector, part of the LED chipset, which I don't have any of these reflector kind of covers removed, but you'll start seeing that literally burn up. If you've ever had an LED bulb that failed, it's the same thing. The coating just burns up, it gets all brown, and essentially you have no output. When it fails, sometimes it just fails, right away. And there's nothing to do. There's nothing to resurrect, essentially, because these have built-in drivers over here. Morimoto's got the separate driver, but there's nothing to replace. So anyway, that's a quick rundown of HID versus LED in terms of where to start. If you've already picked up one of these things, let's move into each individual projector and what to do. But I hope that gives you a little bit of a glimpse where I'm coming from, and my recommendations are going to be different as a business owner and a business than the DIY guy. The DIY guy might want simplicity, less wires. They've had a bad experience with HID. The truth is they're probably just using bad components though. If you use premium Austrian bulbs, okay, all the high quality bulbs that we offer with a Lightwerkz ballast, those ballasts have gotten extremely reliable. They were always reliable. They kind of went through a funk maybe 5 years ago where we had more failures than we like to see, but most customers are using them solid, 3 to 5 years easy. And that's kind of the expected life that I tell customers. It's got a 3-year warranty on that Lightwerkz ballast. That's the highest warranty essentially in China for an aftermarket ballast. Lightwerkz produces ballast from Morimoto. It should tell you something. They're a top tier provider. So this isn't about ballast, this is about projectors. But if you use the good parts, things will last you a long time. So you want simplicity? Sure, there's no, depending on the setup, you could pin an H4 on there, an H13, and literally have a plug and play setup, great. But it's not a big deal to run a ballast. I mean, most of the time we're just running Lightwerkz direct without any sort of wiring harness, and only certain, applications require harness, and it's really not that big of a deal. But I get it. People want simplicity these days. They want to plug it in. They don't want too many things hanging out in the engine bay, and I get that. So, Anyway, let's start with just left to right. We're gonna start in this first row. This is the H1 Super that we carry. This is way different than what you get on Amazon for 26 bucks. Our Supers have really good bowls, metal lens holders, a good shield mechanism. It comes with the shroud. It's a solid setup. This Super, the only reason why you're using this Super is if you want a cheap quad conversion or a budget-friendly conversion. That's the only reason why anybody's using a Super, okay? We would never use it in one of our conversions. We put way too much time and effort into our conversions to use a cheap projector. There's nothing wrong with it. It's budget friendly, but there's nothing special about it either. I'm just going to say it how it is. The H1 is dead, okay? We carry this projector. It's the Morimoto H1. The Morimoto H1 has been through many variations. I can't see it going through another variation or another change. To put it bluntly, I can tell Morimoto's not really putting any resources in changing up their product line or doing anything. So it's really just kind of us left. And there's not too many people that care about HID projectors anymore. And I get it. There's a lot of providers out there that are just recommending the LED projectors, but I love HID. And I do know that H1 is dead. I don't know why people are still buying it, but they are. We sell it. I'd love to sell it to you if you want to buy it. But if you want to talk to me, you want to call us, one of us can help you and we can go over all the options. You don't need to buy the H1. There's no point in buying the H1. The H1 was kind of buried once the D2S Micro came out. And what do you know? Take a look at the Micro, okay? Just check it out. It's based on the same thing as the H1, okay? It's the same projector. It's got a different rear bowl to accommodate a larger, a larger bulb essentially. The shaft is a little bit thicker. You're gonna have to open up your bulb opening a little bit more. Okay, Morimoto version, Lightwerkz version, same thing. We released ours a little bit after Morimoto came out with their version. They stamped it with the Micro D2S, and it's a Morimoto product. I mean, that's branding. No hard feelings at all. It's all the same product. Actually, let's see. Theirs has the AR-coated lens, and ours has the clear lens. That's another topic that maybe I'll just cover it right now. The AR coating does increase efficiency, okay, anti-reflective coating. It does also warm up the output. Some people don't want to warm up the output. They don't want a 6K color to kind of turn 5K. So essentially they will use a clear lens, but the AR coating is really only noticeable when the light hits it in a certain way. And right now I got all the warehouse lights on and it's pretty bright in here. So really the same unit, just ours is clear and this is an AR coated lens. Otherwise it's the same thing, literally the same thing. Yeah. So the H1 was sort of buried once the D2S Micro came out. If you're needing a compact projector, okay, we use this projector in Land Cruiser 100 series conversions, for example, anything super tight. Like, I mean really tight, because there is a big difference. Just take a look at the height and the overall. Sometimes you need depth, sometimes you need height. You can recess this projector deeper and you can trim down a shroud even more. Like this fits into Spider headlights, which use a very small, cheap, shitty projector essentially. And you don't have a lot of girth, you know, you can't use a fat projector essentially. So if you need something really, really tiny, use a D2S Micro. Use the Morimoto version, use our version, doesn't really matter. They're both awesome. And guess what? You can use D2S Osram bulbs. I keep saying Osram, yes, because there's nothing better than a Philips or an Osram bulb. No aftermarket bulb, no matter the name or the brand or wherever you get it from, is going to be able to compete in terms of longevity, reliability, consistency, color, compared to an Osram bulb. So this is the reason why you want to use this versus this product. You're stuck with H1 rebased bulbs. Rebased means they're sticking the capsule into an H1 base, and that capsule is never straight. It's honestly, it's junk, okay? Forget about the H1, just kind of forget about this stuff. We would never recommend it anymore. Kind of our recommendations start right here, but people still buy this stuff, okay? This is our go-to right here, okay? This is where we hang out when it comes to HID projector conversions, okay? Now, what's really interesting is, again, if you heard me before, these are all based on G5, okay? Hella G5. That's a bi-xenon projector. It pretty much took the same shape, okay? This is our go-to, it's the G5 BRT. The reason why it's our go-to is the structure of it. You can use D1 and D3 and D2S bulbs, okay? With the D2S, with the Morimoto D2S 5.0, they just changed it, by the way. They said nothing about it. It was like nothing ever happened. Again, you can tell they're not putting their resources into their product line. They're not really changing it. They recently changed to a straight thin shield, which is kind of mind-blowing because you're kind of reducing the output. And we used to use a version like this of the G5R, and we liked it. It was bright, and I think people were complaining that, you know, the D2S, the Morimoto, wasn't as bright as G5R. So maybe they kind of went to this design. I have a feeling maybe the mold that they were using is wearing out and there's no point in reinvesting in, you know, 2,000-3,000 pieces when maybe sales aren't as strong for the HID stuff anymore. I really don't know, but it's easier to rebrand it, that's for sure. If you take a look at these three units, the G5R and the D2S by Morimoto, the D2S 5.0, have the threaded shaft, and the G5 BRT does not. However, the G5R that we offer uses the same curve shield as the BRT, so you're getting the benefits of the BRT. It just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have the ability to use different bulbs, and it doesn't have the pegs. Okay, so some of the variants that we've used in the past have the pegs, some don't have the pegs. You'll see them come and go, but as of right now, we are using a variant that essentially has a curved shield, which gives you really good performance. It has a flatter beam pattern than a non-curved shield. A nice flat, you know, cutoff essentially, so less bow at the sides. But this is essentially where we hang out. We go with the BRT. But these units are very similar except for the shield type. So they're all solid units, but essentially, you know, it just comes down to what you need. Do you need a threaded shaft or do you not need a threaded shaft? The bulb sits better in these kinds of units with this lock ring that comes with it, even though it's a little hard to figure out for some people, than it does in these, okay, in the threaded shaft version. But I think most DIYers like the threaded shaft, but we nut and bolt. That's our mounting method. everything we do. So we just defer to this. This is a solid unit. We've done so many conversions with those and we have zero issues with them. Finally, the Evo XR 2.0, this was a replacement for the Evo XR 1.0. All those units, those E55, we called it in Mercedes, Hella Lights, some other options, some other models use those as well. This was kind of the replacement, the aftermarket replacement for it. It's very center weighted, way more so than these guys over here, which means it's got a more intense hotspot, but it lacks width and it lacks kind of structure. So it's very, very bright in the center. It's more like pencil beamish than these. And when it comes to lighting, it's really all about, you know, having a good kind of all around unit. That's why we like the G5 BRT. We don't want something super strong. We want something well-rounded, good width, good intensity, and that gives us a better driving experience. But the Evo XR is good. It's just even a little bit bulkier. You can tell it's a little bit taller than the other guys. It's a little bit just different. It's harder to kind of shave down. You got a weird kind of design on the bottom there. So ultimately, we like using these. They're just easier to work with. I think that covers the HID, right? So moving on to LED. These are the options that we offer. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands of different other variants on eBay and Amazon and other resellers. People ask us, you know, have you tried the Bi laser from NHK? Have you tried this and that? You know what? Not really. It's too much. Having too many options for our customers, it just gets kind of, it just gets overwhelming essentially, like what to use, you know? So we carry a few of the NHK projectors. To the right here, I've got the Pro Plus. That's the only 2.5-inch LED projector we carry. It's a little hard to see, but that lens is a 1/2 inch smaller than kind of the big brothers over there on the left. This is good if you really, really need that space, okay? It is a little bit more compact than, let's say, the NHK5 or the NHK4 Plus, just by a little bit, like a 1/2 inch front to back, and the front lens size is a little bit smaller. Comes in at a better price point. You know, I didn't really mention price too much, but that's a budget-friendly option right down here, and this is essentially our budget-friendly option, the 2.5-inch Pro Plus. And this is actually a new option right here. It's the M1, NHK M1, and it's got a threaded shaft. I feel like this is really the go-to right now for budget-friendly and DIY installs. It's got the thinner threaded shaft, which means it can fit into H7 applications and less dremeling out that hole, essentially. So definitely a sweet projector. I've got I don't have the 4 Plus and the 5 out at the same time, but they're basically the same unit. The 5 is just a little bit brighter, a little bit better optimized, and the 4 Plus has a stronger high beam. So if you have a separate dual and high beam setup, this is awesome. Using the 5 is great. If you've got, you know, a dual filament bulb setup and you just want one, you want a really strong high beam, if that's important to you, the 4 Plus is good. But essentially, you know, the NHK projectors, they all are the same in the sense that they have the fans in the back. Okay, even though this has a threaded shaft, it does have a threaded shaft kind of going out through the fan. There is a fan under here. They all come with bare adapters. It's sort of generic, but not really. NHK is a solid company. We do offer pin swaps and pin additions for our customers for a small extra fee. NHK is good to work with, but you know, it starts getting crazy. You got laser projectors and you got all these fancy things. China just keeps on coming up with stuff to sell. It's all marketing. So it's easy to get caught up in the latest and greatest things. These are solid units. I like them. They're extremely bright. They're essentially brighter than the HID projectors. When it comes to brightness and, you know, overall intensity, China loves chasing the LED projectors because they can make them super bright. The problem is a lot of the ones on the market, they lack width like crazy. There's no width on them. They're just really bright pencil beams loaded with foreground. I mean, it's just crazy. I will admit the NHK projectors do increase foreground. You may think that's a positive thing. It's not necessarily fully positive. They have more foreground than their HID counterparts. Right out of the box, they're brighter. To compete with an LED projector, the G5 BRT would need a 50-watt ballast, and then it's a very similar, it's a similar intensity reading, essentially. So the LED projectors are brighter, but they do offer more foreground. They also offer more color at the cutoff line. Some people love the color flicker. Again, we're not showing off the beams, but these projectors are pretty interesting. People love the way they look, and most people like the way they perform. It's just that most of the time they require more work unless you have the threaded shaft. That's why I like the M1 right now. It's pretty much a go-to. Here we've got the Morimoto MLED. Morimoto designed this from the ground up. A guy named Yoshi was the designer, the engineer for it. Really cool. I still see him chiming in. I appreciate his efforts and educating people. What they did with the MLED was sort of revolutionary. Nobody else did this in China, not sure why, but they have a removable threaded shaft. Now, what's cool about this projector is it fits in replacement like side mount assemblies, like Toyota on the 4Runner and on the Lexus models, they use a side mount HID projector. This is like the only retrofit option, because you can put this on if you need it and you can take it off if you don't, and it still functions the same. And essentially you have a very compact projector here. I mean, it's easily a half-inch shorter, and the fan's not out the back, the fan's on the bottom. Okay, the fan is on the back on these, and it's boxy and it's kind of square. And think about it, coming out of a round hole in the back, it's not always easy to seal these things. And it's, you know, it works on a lot of applications, but you got to get creative. And I really like the way that they designed this MLED. I mean, it's just awesome. Now, the downside is people get the MLED and they're expecting it to be brighter. Guess what? It's not about brightness. It's about the whole picture. It's about optimization. It's about, you know, the proper amount of foreground. And the MLED has better width than all of the LED projectors that we offer, the other ones, the NHK version. So it is indeed a better option if you're looking for truly optimized kind of lighting performance, but it's not brighter than the NHKs, and it's not, you know, the MLED is also the most expensive one. So again, that is the most expensive option out of this setup. Currently in 2024, they're running $395, and you might still need some other things. They do come with 9006 and 5 plugs for low and high beam, and if you haven't noticed, it is a replaceable driver. Now, let's get into like real talk here, okay? When the MLED came out, they had a few issues. When the NHK projectors came out, they had some issues too. When the MLED goes out, the first thing we ask a customer is, hey, did you check the driver? Did you do a driver swap? Oh yes, I swapped the driver and the problem followed. Great, let's send you a driver. Well, now they've got their system up and running without disassembling the headlight assembly. With the NHKs, you're essentially, again, you're taking out the projector, you're submitting a warranty, and then we send you a projector, and essentially it's much larger of a hassle to deal with an NHK warranty. Again, it might be something that you're willing to deal with, but that's why we do like recommending the MLED option. It is better optimized, easily replaceable. You can work with it better. Technically it is the better option, but it's not brighter and it's not cheaper. You know, you have to pick what's important to you. And in this case, in the case of lighting, look how many options I have here. And this is just what we sell. And there's like so many other options. But the products that we sell, the products that we use, the products that we recommend certain things for certain budgets or for certain models. Like this is easy for a BMW E39 or a Z4 or some kind of Mercedes. Some of these fit in the Porsche headlights, like the Cayenne directly. There are certain things here that we can recommend to a customer to make their lives easier, but you have to reach out to us. You have to call us. You have to email us. It's very difficult to kind of navigate this if you're brand new or you're not sitting on Headlight Junkies, you know, forums all day long. So hopefully, I think I covered everything. This was way longer than I had expected it to be, and it's a one-shot, one-take. Just wanted to kind of dive right into all this, and hopefully that gave you a better understanding of, you know, what we use, why we use it, and if there's somebody else using something else, that's totally fine with me and with us. We respect everybody else in the community. I wish them luck with whatever they're doing, but these are like the main things. I think these are the main options. You know, I'm sure there'll be somebody in the comments asking us to review some kind of new, you know, laser projector, but a lot of the stuff is gimmicky. A lot of the stuff is overkill. You don't need quad, you know, LED projectors for everyday use. Anyway, curious to hear your thoughts. I know I spit out a lot of information. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully this will help some people really get a good grasp of where to start when it comes to their projector retrofit. All right, thanks again.